Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering woke John Deere CEO asked to resign. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. If Robbie Starbuck is after your company, you've got a problem. Even Bloomberg recognized Robbie Starbuck's got some power. From Bloomberg, John Deere backs down from diversity initiatives after online attacks. It's not over at John Deere. They're still pushing an agenda there. But Robbie Starbuck did get them to roll back some initiatives. Cover that in a prior video. However, they have not committed to stopping DEI at their company. They have not committed to not taking orders from the Human Rights Campaign, the HRC, an outside group that dictates to companies how woke their company should be, how much DEI they should have, and how much LGBT agenda-related things they should have at their company. Now, as far as however people want to live, of course, it's the conservative view that you live the way you want to live. I'm going to live the way I want to live. I'm not going to make the same choices that you want to make. I'm going to do my own thing for myself and for my own family and children and friends. You can do whatever you want. But that's not good enough for the Human Rights Campaign. And unfortunately, with the progressive agenda, they need everyone to agree with them. If you don't agree with them, if you don't participate with them, they're at war with you. And since the necessary changes at John Deere, like Tractor Supply made, have not yet been made at John Deere, Robbie Starbuck is calling for the CEO of John Deere, John May, to resign and step down from the company. From Robbie Starbuck, meet John Deere DEI Speaker Series guest Jennifer Brown. She's an activist who supports transitioning people at any age. How does Jennifer push John Deere's tractor business forward? CEO John May should resign, and all of John Deere's DEI staff should be fired this week. Now, I had a really interesting conversation with a friend that I've had for many years. I just said, I'm a conservative guy, and I stay that way. I don't look to get into other people's business. I'm not out calling people evil because they make different choices in their lives. That's their own business. The difference between good and evil really is a value system. It's not we all believe the same thing and we know that this is bad and that's good, or this is good and that's evil. It's up to the individual to decide, and in a family unit, it's up to the parents to decide how they're going to raise their children. But not in California. And I was surprised, but I wound up getting into this conversation with an old friend of mine who does live in California, who is in the entertainment industry, successful, and does have a child or two that have been part of the LGBT group. Not the trans group, but they've been through a lot and they have their own lifestyles and the way they want to live. And of course, that's their choice. But my friend, I'll just call him Jeff, did have a compelling point of view when we got down to talking about it. His point of view that this new California law that makes it illegal for teachers to tell parents if their children are LGBT or if they're trans is a good thing, and that it saves the lives of children. And I said, I don't really see it that way. I see it the opposite way. Here's the law that everyone's talking about. This is from the nationaldesk.com, and Elon Musk had his own comments on this. Gavin Newsom and Elon Musk spar over new California gender identity law. Quote, this is the final straw. So Elon Musk is moving his companies out of California. He's going to move them all to Texas. Even Twitter, SpaceX, he's not going to be doing any business in California anymore. I saw more media about this law before it was passed. Now it's passed. There aren't many websites talking about it. There aren't many people talking about it. But this is a really big deal, and it also shows you here's where the conflict is. Here's where conservatives and liberals aren't on the same side. And it's not about good and evil. I'm telling you, my friend is good. He cares about his kids. The question is, what assumptions are we making, whether we're liberal or conservative, about what the right thing is to do when it comes to this agenda? Here's what the law said. The legislation, AB 1955, makes it illegal for school districts to create policies requiring teachers to notify parents of their children's gender identity. Governor Newsom signed the bill into law after pushback by a religious advocacy group, and it will go into effect January 1st. Now, without going into the law in other great detail, the basic conflict is parents are not going to be told if their child's teacher is talking to their children about transitioning or about being LGBT. Are there any limitations on what the teacher can say about this subject? There are none. Is the teacher even allowed? Because there are some red counties and red school districts. Conservatives in California, they do still exist. They have been trying to hold the line and trying to create a safe community for their children where, of course, parents would know what's going on with their children. This state law prevents them from doing that anymore, which if you don't agree with this law and you can afford to get out of California, of course, people are getting the heck out of California because, look, there's nothing more important to me than my son. I'm sure if you're a parent, there's nothing more important to you than your children. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about people necessarily going out and trying to do bad things to children. From a conservative point of view, yes. From a liberal point of view, no. So why is John Deere in the middle of this? I'll get to that in 1 second. The basic rundown on the conservative says this is bad, liberal says this is good. The conservative side, you already know. We don't want the government in between parents and children. We don't want the government saying, oh, hey, you're a parent. That's nice, but they're not really your children. There are children to raise. We're just allowing you to do that for now. So we will tell your children what their values are. If your children are confused or curious about something, the state will deal with that. You as a parent don't even have a right to comment on that. You don't have a right to be involved in that. That is so terrible. I mean, as a parent, I have to say, I could never stand for something like that. I can't live with anything like that. It took a lot to raise my child. It was not easy. There were a lot of things going on. And the state, throughout the process, did drop the ball several times. So if someone's going to tell me that the well-being of my child is going to be dependent on the local state government and whoever they assign to do that for my child, I can't agree with that. I can't accept that. Because I know that even though it's a violation of a parent-child relationship, which is a sacred thing, it's not like there's going to be some unbroken string of success that the government will never mess up 1 year after another as they're dealing with your child's identity. Of course, they're not going to do that perfectly. If you've ever had a teacher in your life, you know you've had some good teachers. You know you've had some bad teachers. That year that you have a bad teacher could put you in a really dangerous situation if you're a young person and you're questioning your identity. So what does this have to do with John Deere? Why is John Deere involved in this? Well, here's what John Deere had to say. John Deere brought in this professional activist speaker promoting this agenda. This was in June of 2022. Join DEI expert Jennifer Brown, who will speak about bringing your best self to work and being an effective ally. Jennifer is an award-winning entrepreneur and author who is deeply passionate about building more inclusive workplaces where more people feel welcomed, valued, respected, and heard. I've talked about this before. It's impossible to create an easy, fair work environment where everybody gets to feel heard. This isn't playtime. Even in school environments with children, you do your best to make sure that everybody shares and everybody has a friend to play with. Of course, you can't do that in a work environment. And I'm not even trying to denigrate what they say they're trying to do here. That's what they literally say they're trying to do and why you should pay them a lot of money as a consultant. What business could afford to do that? Of course, it's impossible. And we were all in school. We've all had play dates that worked and play dates that didn't work. They can't be arranging play dates in the office. And even more from Jennifer Brown. Having had countless beautiful and enlightening conversations with the trans community throughout my years in this work and hosting the Will to Change podcast, I've come to cherish the depth of their experiences and the resilience they exhibit. Some of my most memorable moments on the podcast have been with my conversations with my friends. You know, that's nice. And of course, we can tweet whatever we want to tweet on Twitter. But here's what it comes down to fundamentally. My friend who I'm calling Jeff, his point of view is not liberal on everything. He's not Mr. LGBT agenda pushing it on everyone or anything like that. In this case, he has some experience. He has a child that's part of the LGBT group, not trans. And he's gone through difficult times with her and her questioning her identity. So he continues on and he does do work, not only with his daughter, but with programs that help children that are in a bad way, that are thrown out of their house because their parents don't accept them. And that's hard to argue with. I said to him, well, isn't it illegal for parents to throw their underage children out of the house? And he said, yes, but parents do throw children out of the house if they're trans, if they're gay, if they're bi, or whatever. If they don't accept their lifestyle, there are parents that are still putting children out of the house that wind up, a lot of them homeless or on the streets in tremendous danger. It ruins their life. So you can't require children to go through the trauma of having their teacher tell their parents that they're questioning their identity and that they might be gay or trans or whatever. Because if you put the child through that trauma, the parents might literally make that child homeless. Okay, that's terrible, and I understand that. Again, what John Deere is doing in the middle of this and trying to promote, this is inherently controversial and has nothing to do with selling tractors or anything else that John Deere does. If teachers are required to tell parents about their children's identity that they're questioning or they're dealing with in school, it may very well be that, yes, some of those children, because they will get thrown out of their houses and be put in literal physical danger. But at the same time, if you tell teachers you don't have to tell parents what's going on with their own children, and not only you don't have to, you're not legally allowed to, isn't that going to negatively affect a lot of parents that want to go out of their way to make sure they're involved in their children's lives and supporting them? Children are not little adults. They're developing people. People's brains are not fully formed under the age of 18, and that's what we're dealing with here, under the age of 18. Additionally, how do you deal with a teacher who wants to make an assessment on a child and saying, hey, I just let you read these books. I gave you these books. We all sang certain songs together, or whatever they do to put people in the mood. And then have the teacher go and persuasively start talking to a child about things maybe the child wasn't even thinking about in the first place? How do you protect that child from that indoctrination? How do you prevent that child or protect that child from making choices that could ruin their life? Being thrown out of your house and being homeless because your parents won't accept what you say you want to be is terrible, and it's already illegal. Can't we just put more resources into that? And that's what I said to my friend Jeff. Why are we creating a situation where the state is going to be making decisions about what happens with your children in the future? And also, as I said to him, I'm sure it's well-meaning, because I know it's well-meaning. Jeff is not a bad person. He does care about people and what happens to them. I know the guy. But what happens to a child when they're getting all of these interventions and keeping all these secrets from their parents? They're going and they're living double lives. They have one life at school. They may even have one name with associated behaviors at school that they can't continue when they go home. So they can't have that conversation with their parents. So their parents can't deal with them and communicate with them and help them after school. Maybe they need a mental health professional or something if they're going through a really stressful time. A lot of teenagers do. But you're supposed to get all your help while you're at school? What about school vacations? What about summer vacations? What about the one teacher that you had that really listened to you and encouraged this, and then next year you have a different teacher? So you're going to have a secret file that the government's going to keep on you about what your identity was last year? And what about the reverse situation? What if a young teen decides that maybe they are gay or trans or whatever, and they keep that at school, and then the following year they get a teacher who's a conservative teacher that says, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll give you books that will encourage you to not be that way. Maybe I'll try to give you ideas to try to transition you back from one gender or another gender, which might be the right thing for the child or might not be the right thing for the child. We don't know who these kids are. We don't know the individual, and we can't rely on a teacher who has zero training and expertise for this. Even if they have some training for this, of course there are going to be mistakes made on a regular basis. This would be like taking a nurse and saying, you know what, because we think it might work out better, we're just going to give a nurse surgeon credentials, or an assistant to the nurse, or maybe the receptionist at the surgery facility. We're just going to have the receptionist do surgery now because we don't want the patient's parents to know what's going on. I mean, the logic of this is really bad. But like I was saying, though, my friend Jeff is intelligent. It's just that people want to believe that the government can bail them out. The government can help them. These are really nice people that are trying to help other people out. It's not like the government is all bad and you shouldn't trust the government, but you have to be realistic. An example I gave him was, there was another friend of mine, and I met her friend's mother, who was originally from Mexico. One of the nicest people you will ever meet. So incredibly caring and sweet. Just a great grandma-aged person that was just like you, the love and the concern and the interest. was completely legitimate. You know people like that. You've run into especially like old country people like that, or people who are very family oriented. They do everything for their family. They really love their family. You cannot get that from the state government of California, as much as we might wish it to be. The state government, the federal government, the local government is never going to care for you like a Mexican grandma is going to care for her own children, or of course, an American or any nationality's grandma that loves their generations of children and have been caring for them and taking care of them and going out of their way for them for years. That's a family thing. Government isn't family. Government will never be family, regardless of what John Deere says. You can never make a statement like, well, when you're at home, you're the responsibility of the parents. But when you're at school, the school is responsible for you and has full authority over you and will make literally any and every decision about you and will assess on its own at the teacher level or even the school psychologist level. School psychologists, have you ever talked to any of those? I've talked to a few. Let's just put it that way, because of raising my son. A lot of them are not that bright. A lot of them don't care. I had one that was phenomenal. One out of maybe 3 or 4 that I dealt with over the years. She was really something special, and I would have trusted her to consult with me about what was going on with my son, but not to make decisions for what was going on with my son. I would never have allowed that. And the rest of them, I wasn't even comfortable with them being around my son. I wasn't involved with those people at all, and I didn't want them involved at all with my son. The bottom line is, between liberals and conservatives, it's really just about assumptions that we're making. Liberals really do genuinely seem to believe that government can jump in there, and just because they make a promise that they will help you because they see you're hurting, they see you're going through a difficult time, they're going to give you enough entitlements that things are going to just be okay. And why not? The government has all these resources. They seem to have unlimited resources. Yes, we have inflation, but the trains pretty much still run on time. They still show up. The military's in trouble, but they're kind of still there. People are still afraid of our military. So the assumption is the government can be involved with your life at every level, and it will never be a problem as long as they just keep telling you it will never be a problem. Conservatives don't believe that. We're skeptical. If you make a claim to us, we want you to prove it. And beyond that, we don't want to give up the sovereignty of our family unit. And as I had to say, the traditional family unit. I know what it's like to be a biological parent, so I can speak to that. I would do anything for my son. No risk I wouldn't take to do something for him. That sovereignty is not something the government can ever intrude upon. They can send the military to my house, they'll beat me. But without direct force, they're never going to lie their way into me saying, okay, yes, government, you could do whatever you want with my son. I'm sure it's all going to work out, and it might even be easier for me. I would never allow that. And I have to say, people that trust the government at that level to secretly be involved with people's children are being severely deceived. And why John Deere needs to be part of this agenda does not make any sense. John May should step down. No company should have any part of this. There are no liberal companies that belong in trying to promote propaganda and lies or whatever ideologies or agendas, new religions, and use company resources for that. That's not what a business is for. No, the employees don't all need that. If you want to give an employee like discretionary health money in case that might go to some odd procedure or whatever, fine, as long as everybody gets the same thing. But they should not be pushing this ideology in businesses. And when I mentioned that to Jeff, how can he dispute that? He didn't dispute that. Still, when you're overwhelmed and you're worried about your own child and you don't really know what to do, and the government comes along and says, hey, I see you're having a hard time. I'm here to help you. We're the government. Don't worry. Conservatives know that can never be true. Liberals think it's true. And that's the difference between liberals and conservatives. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.